Incoming transmission.
The Klingon word of the day is Dach.
This is the Computer Resume podcast about Star Trek. If you like nerdy things, you're in the right place. And this is the show.
Greetings and welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, Mr. Todd A. Davis. Today, we have our first ever repeat guest. It's Mr. Justin Bishop. Yay, Justin Bishop. Oh my God, it's Justin Bishop. What's going on, man? Thanks for, I feel like it's been 5 seconds since we talked last.
It's been several seconds. Yes.
Yeah. So Justin was very kind to come back this week to discuss another episode. We're recording back to back. Hopefully you guys had a chance to catch his first episode, which was last week, where we talked about fight or flight. But anything going on since we last talked, Justin?
Well, I refilled my coffee cup.
You refilled? Okay, that's good. That's good.
Refilled my coffee cup, so I'm getting energized.
Nice. Hey, there's
like
some
that?
verbiage. Yeah, that's
You
good.
like that?
Hey, I'll ask you, because I asked Gary when he came on for the pilot. Did your wife Bunny watch this with you?
No.
She have any interest in Star Trek?
She likes Star Trek. Okay. I don't know that how much interest she has in it. I mean, she's not against it. I don't know that she ever really got into it. She's watched all the J.J. Abrams movies with me and stuff, but I don't know that she really was ever particularly into the TV series or anything. She's watched a little bit of it on her own, I think. I think she got on a kick where she thought she was going to watch it all on Netflix and then just never did. But but she's watched it. I mean, she's watched it with me. She knows that I love it, especially Next Generation, like we talked about last week. And she's seen some of the older movies, I believe, but I would not call her a Trekkie, nor would I call her a Trekker.
I gotcha. Yeah, because Kat's begrudgingly watched the first, let's see, I guess I'm on probably episode 6 or 7 at this point, but yeah, she's
over it, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's real over it. She was over it during Broken Bow. So
I feel like for Enterprise,
that's love, folks.
I feel like for Enterprise, honestly, you have to really be a devoted Trek fan.
Yeah. And
because the characters are not in this. I might be getting ahead of ourselves, but the characters are not as immediately lovable as in some of the other series.
They definitely have room for personal growth. Of the folks that are on this ship, I think Archer, it was his dad's ship, so he definitely wants to be there. Trip's an engineer, so
you mean Dollar Store McCoy?
Yeah, as I was referring to him with a group of friends, I'm referring to him as Hee-Haw. Anytime he's not interested in being in the engine, I'm like, you're an engineer. Go back to engineering.
Literally, it is literally in the name of your job title. It is.
But I think
it's right there.
So Archer,
Geordi never complained.
That's right.
Scotty never complained.
I think the only other person that's really down for this voyage is Travis Mayweather, born and raised in space. So you get it from him. He's the pilot. Of course, he wants to fly the starship. A lot of these folks,
everyone else is begrudgingly just I guess we'll go.
Hoshi's like, as long as I don't have to.
How long is this mission?
3
years.
Exactly. Yeah.
How long is their mission? Have they even said?
I don't think they've specifically said. It was kind of
because they just kind of left.
Yeah, they're just so we got
in the first episode. They just kind of we're going. We're just going. Everybody got your bags packed. We're out of here.
They're like,
and
it's we've come this far. I think I even said
where are you going? Even in the last episode, they never had a destination. It was we've been going at warp 5 for 3 days, and
that way.
We haven't come across anyone. That's because you're in space.
Yeah.
If you don't have a destination, you're just aimlessly flying around space, hoping you run into somebody.
Yeah, just poking.
And even the Vulcan lady says something like, I think it's in the last week's episode, like 1 out of every 43,000 planets is inhabitable. Like, you're not just going to run into somebody. It's like, yeah, I should have thought about that.
Yeah, not every planet is an M-class planet.
I should have thought about that.
Oh God, yeah. I feel like Reed's just waiting to blow something up. You know,
which one's Reed? I'm still learning their names.
Reed is the
British,
the British
guy,
tactician, the security munitions officer. Yeah. But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of room for personal growth amongst the crew, and who better to lead them than Sam?
Sam. He's had a lot of lives.
Oh boy,
a lot of experiences.
Well, without further ado, let's get into this week's recap.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back outside.
The first planet they explore looks like home.
I almost forgot what fresh air smells like.
But what they discover...
Who is that?
...is like nothing on Earth.
Commander, there! Some kind of life form down here!
An all-new Enterprise.
When in outer space, be sure to visit M-class planets with breathable atmospheres, picturesque views, and possibly poisonous plant life. Visit M-class planets today for the low cost of your sanity and the trust of your shipmates. So Archer's like, sounds great, let's go. Archer orders a space bus to be prepared for an away mission. Porthos hops out like, I'm going to pee on all this stuff. It's my favorite thing. After a stroll through the park, T'Pol, Tucker, and Travis are like, Dad, can we camp overnight? And Archer's like, finally, some peace and quiet on the ship. Sure, you kids can stay as long as you like. Crewman Cutler and Nova Kovic stick around too so they can study nocturnal life. Archer and Reed bounce, so a storm kicks up. Come out of nowhere! So Tucker suggests the landing party use the cave that T'Pol discovered earlier for shelter. Travis is like, oh man, I left my oatmeal cream pies back at the campsite. When he gets back, it's like, T'Pol's like, my Texas Instruments says nuh-uh. In the cave, Cutler and Novakovic start tripping out. Tucker calls Archer and is like,
I'm freaking out, man.
T'Pol's like, give me a gun. I'll find him. While she's gone, the crew of the SS High as a Kite start talking. Like, what if she's one of them, man? Archer and Reed are like, let's go pick up the kids. But they can't land until the storm dies down. Novakovic gets beamed up looking like Swamp Thing, and Doc Phlox finds he's tripping balls.
Meanwhile,
back on the planet, Trip's getting worse, and T'Pol's feeling it too. But Quick Draw T'Pol stuns Tucker and gives him the medicine Phlox gave to Reed to beam down. The next morning, everyone's fine, because they...
wait for all this to blow over.
So what'd you think?
Well, last week I said that Hoshi was my favorite character. Turns out Porthos is my favorite character. I didn't know there was a beagle on the show. That's not
simple motivations, if you've got cheese.
I love a beagle. I love a beagle. And I love dogs in general. Beagles are particularly fun because they're dumb and smart at the same time. They're super cute.
Yeah.
Snoopy's a beagle.
That's true.
So yes, Porthos is the highlight of this episode.
You're not wrong, sir. You are not wrong. He's great.
He's great. He's a great dog.
I gotta say, in terms of dogs, I will never forget sitting with you at Birds Fly South, a local bar here in Greenville, where a brewery rather, they have some movie nights, and we were sitting there, and you had your, at that time, new puppy Banjo, and you stood him up like a person, and then you just leaned over to me and went, look at his dumb face. And
he does have a dumb face.
He definitely reminds me of a Muppet, like he just kind of floppy and super fuzzy. But you have 3 dogs total. You've got Bruno, Banjo, and
Lulu.
I wanted to say like Bella, and I was like, that's not correct.
Yeah, 3 dogs, 2 Yorkies, and a Banjo.
2 Yorkies and a Banjo.
Today's Bruno's 14th birthday.
Hey,
as we're I know this will come out in a couple of weeks, but still, as of today, today's his 14th birthday.
Yeah, I've got I think if folks listen to the introductions episode of this podcast, you might hear a few instances of my dog, my son, Max, tiptoeing around the office here. He's very friendly, but gives very oppressive love. When you're his best friend, he really wants you to know that you're his best friend. Let me ask you, did you as a kid do much camping? You and your family seem like definitely more outdoorsy than the Davises. Did you guys get any camping?
I've never camped a day in my life.
Seriously? Never, ever?
Never.
Not even like backyard stuff? Did you ever
Nope,
backyard?
Never.
No?
Never had a tent. I mean, I've stayed on campgrounds where there were like cabins, but I have never slept in a tent in my life.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I think Cinema Shock might have to do like a weekend getaway.
Yeah, I mean,
sit by
I'm
the
not
fire
necessarily opposed to it, but I like the comfort of the indoors. I like to have my internet. I like to have air conditioning and heat.
Yes.
I like to have running water.
My wife and I have self-admitted indoor kids, like from the word go. So yeah, we didn't do much camping. And Walt Davis, he's not one for suffering fools, especially on a campsite.
Yeah,
which is shocking from a Vietnam veteran.
He slept outside enough in Nam.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, why would I do that now when I don't have to?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, yeah. He was not about camping at all. Not.
Yeah, my parents were never really into that, and I have to. The tents that they are camping in on this planet. Was there a name of the planet given? They don't really know where they are, so I don't know that.
I think they focus on it being an M-class planet, but never.
Well, I guess if it's not mapped out, I guess there's no name for it. So, what century are we in? 22nd?
The 22nd century. Yes.
Why do their tents look like the same things I can go get at Dick's Sporting Goods right now? Tent technology should have improved.
Yeah,
between now and then.
I always think of like the tents from X-Men United, where
That's
like
the third one,
the second or where they're on the run from somebody. Typical X-Men plot line. They plug up a little hose to it and it inflates the support.
Yeah, that would make more sense, right?
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. Although,
or in Harry Potter, where it's just enormous on the inside,
right? Oh,
I mean, that's Doctor Who technology. That's not Star Trek technology.
Very much. Yeah, absolutely. So we see the crew suffer, quote unquote, suffer. Yeah, they suffer from hallucinations brought on by plant life.
Pollen.
A
hell of an allergic reaction.
Yeah. Have you ever suffered hallucinations?
Are you asking if I've ever taken psychotropic drugs? Psychotropic drugs. Psychotropic drugs.
Have you ever hallucinated anything, Justin?
Oh no, I haven't.
No.
Well, not to my knowledge. I could be hallucinating right now.
Maybe. Isn't all life technically a hallucination?
I mean, I could be living within a computer simulation right now, and you're just a bunch of ones and zeros in front of me. I don't know. True. That's what the Matrix told me.
I think the closest I've gotten is my wife has a neurological condition. We won't get into it. I'll let her discuss that at length, but needless to say, it causes her a lot of headaches. So conventional medicine, more often than not, doesn't work so well. So she has to turn to other pharmaceuticals, we'll say. There's been times where I've been in a position where it has not cost me anything to partake with her.
Join her on that magic carpet ride.
Yeah. I'm trying to tread lightly here. But I can tell you, having not we come from similar backgrounds. Both of our families heavily involved in the religious communities here, and it was never really on my radar, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So when I first tried it in my early 30s, I sat down, I was like, what do folks do when they do this? They watch cartoons, right? So I laid down to watch cartoons and didn't really feel much of anything. My wife took the dose that she thought she needed. And in my head, I had a smaller dose that I thought, okay, this is a good amount to try, which was half of what she wound up taking. But when she told me how much she was taking, my thought process changed to, well, I'm bigger than you, so I'll take the same amount that you take. It made me walk like a baby deer is the best way I can describe it. Just like, I'm not sure where the floor begins, ends, or it's level. So I'm just going to lift my leg as high as I can.
Yeah, I mean,
slowly...
that's not quite a hallucination, though.
Yeah,
That's
it's
just, you're disoriented.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not
more
seeing
of a
rock
disorientation
people crawling out of your wall.
There was another time where, and the closest thing I can also relate is sort of when you're coming out of that dream state where you're not sure if what you experienced was real or not.
The only thing I can think is that after having a brownie, just a regular brownie, don't worry about it.
Just a regular brownie. That's all it is. Lots of sugar. Lots of sugar.
There was nuts, chocolate, flour.
Yep. There you go.
Among other things.
Yeah.
I do remember, I would never, there's no hallucination. It's not psychotropic at all. But I do remember thinking and not knowing if I was thinking or talking out loud. I think I was thinking the whole time. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember the whole time going, am I saying this? Am I just thinking this? Is my mouth moving?
I do a joke in my act about, well, say it's a joke. It's more of a one-liner just to sort of break the tension, especially if I'm the first one up. And the one-liner is, there is such a thing as too high for Doctor Who. And I, once again, participating with my wife in some of her medicinal indulgence. She took 1. I took 3. I started to doubt whether the British accent was a real thing. They were talking. It was Matt Smith, Doctor Who, and at one point all I could do was just using my hands like to try to push the air, to push the TV away.
And Matt Smith is the weirdest looking. Like he looks like a hallucination. Anyway,
he kind of looks like a hallucination. He
sort of looks like Odo. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he does. Oh my God, he does. So during that, I was laying on the couch, and from what my wife has told me, I could not stop moving my legs. They just kept curling in and out, up and down, around on each other. And then my dog Max, very sweet, very loving, came up to see what was wrong with Daddy. And when he did, it was like I had seen a miracle. And all I did was just open my mouth and slowly breathe out my excitement of just. That's all.
That's my general reaction to dogs, actually.
Yeah, never had anything. I think the only other thing that I think I've experienced is probably when I had my wisdom teeth out, and they give you the gas and everything. And unfortunately, like for listeners who haven't seen me, I'm a fairly hefty guy. While I was under, apparently I started to choke. I also have sleep apnea, so that's not a surprise. But when I started to choke, they actually had to wake me up. And I woke up to the dentist's knee on my chest and a hammer and chisel in my mouth. Yeah. And he starts chiseling it, and I look up and go, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Oh, wow.
But never really had any experiences like this, but gosh, when you're so convinced of something, I can think of one more experience, and it's just, I started talking about the dream state, and I remember, and it's one of the stories my wife and I tell of just, couples, when you're together for a long time, you accumulate these weird stories. I remember my wife got out of bed, and it was enough to stir me awake, and I had a quick reaction, a quick wake, a quick inhalation of just, where's everybody going? And she very smartly looked at me and said, "Who?" And I said, "You, Danny Glover." and I couldn't remember. And I just went, "That other black lady?" And I couldn't. And she was like, "So not the one black lady, the other black lady?" And I was just like, "Yeah." And once I finally came out of it, she was like, "You've got to tell me what was happening in our bed." And I had the hardest time convincing her because it sounds so ridiculous. We weren't doing anything sexual. We were hanging out like the grandparents in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's the dumbest thing in the world. But when you're convinced in your head of, something's going on, you won't be deterred. Much like the crew of the Enterprise was.
Yeah.
For this
Man,
episode.
this episode, these characters are not very likable. I'm going to go ahead and say, Tucker,
Yeah.
he has not been likable in any of these episodes so far to me,
Yeah.
but in this one, and I know you're supposed to be seeing him as he's under the influence of this pollen or whatever, but still, it's kind of like that's his true nature coming out, and like, oh, the guy's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
he's that southern charm is not shining through. Sir.
No, I'm not a fan of that character at all. Like, he's very one note to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's partly writing and honestly partly performance to me. He just plays him as pure like aggression the whole time, and I really don't like it.
No.
And the Vulcan lady, T'Pol, is that her name? T'Pol?
Yeah, T'Pol.
She's also not likable, but she's sort of not supposed to be at this point. She's sort of antagonistic to the captain anyway, and to everyone else. Because she's a Vulcan, and
Right.
They're difficult.
And I think at this point, with the characters not being so easy to latch onto and identify with, it makes it hard to really, latch on and enjoy. But
you haven't been given any experiences where you like that character yet,
right?
To where it feels like if this episode had come 2/3 into the season where you've learned to like Tucker, and then all of a sudden he's acting like this, it's more believable. But coming this early on, when he was also sort of aggressive in the previous 2 episodes, you're just like, oh, this guy's just a jerk. Because he's a jerk about wanting to go on the planet, like we joked about last episode. He's an engineer and he's complaining that has to stay in engineering. It's like, well,
that's your job, man.
Yeah.
What'd you think? Yeah, and looking at this, I think it kind of expands a little bit on the tensions and paranoia between humans and Vulcans, but with them being under this hallucinogenic pollen, I don't think we're getting a real true sense of the crew's thoughts and feelings about that whole situation. Because as soon as they come out of it, they're
fine.
Hunky dory. Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing to me that's a little weird is that you're introduced to 2 new characters, Cutler and Novakovic, who essentially are red shirts, or they seem like they're going to be.
Yeah.
And they're a pretty big focus of this episode, considering that we've not seen their faces before at all.
Yeah, to use the term lower decks, we get somebody, not of the main cast coming up, and they get assigned an away team mission. And
have that happen so early in the series where viewers are still trying to learn who the characters are. Because I'd watched the pilot and then I watched last week's episode and this episode back to back, and I'm like, were these guys here before and I just missed it? Like, who are these guys? Why are they here? And it's not like they're just, they're minor characters, but they're major in the plot of this episode.
Right.
And it's just really weird. And the one thing I like about this episode that I thought was interesting was the idea that they haven't gotten the transporter figured out yet. Because the one guy comes back with like leaves in him or something, right?
Yeah, he comes back. Yeah, and that's, my wife was like, well, why don't they just beam him out of there? And I was just like, because honestly, that's not what the transporter's for at this point. It's
not made for organic material yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So when they beam him up and he's got leaves and sticks sticking out of him, you're like, oh my God. Oh, that must
apparently that guy was supposed to die in the original script, and Scott Bakula talked them into letting him live because they're like, he said something like the crew should have time to grieve over their crew member loss. I'm like, Scott Bakula, have you never watched Star Trek? Like, people die and then we get on with our lives.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think that would have been a really great move. I know we talked a little bit about Battlestar Galactica last episode. In that first miniseries to open the show, a mass funeral, but it's also kind of their rallying point. That's the whole so say we all scene.
Right.
And think Enterprise.
Well, that show is all about loss.
True. I think this would have been a nice wake-up call of like, hey, it's not going to be all sunshine and roses, this exploring space. Bones McCoy is all about deep and dark disease and silence and death.
Yeah. And so on.
There needs to be a wake-up call of that, of like, hey, we're gonna face some stuff that's gonna be not so pretty. And unfortunately, we just lost somebody. There may be more to come. So we need to sort of batten down the hatches and really take this seriously. And I think that might have been a little bit of a much needed sobering element that unfortunately was not taken advantage of in terms of the writing and production of this. But I checked my phone. They didn't call. So here we are with this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This episode just felt like it's a very stereotypical Star Trek episode to me.
Yeah.
Go down on a planet, which I know happens all the time during Star Trek. That's part of what Star Trek is. That's
Sure.
mostly what the original series was go down on a planet, some bad goes down, and
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and to be honest, this is the part where, I mean, I know we shoveled a lot of hate on Tucker, but this is the first episode where I've had a couple of eyebrow raising moments at Jonathan Archer and things he's said and things he's done. But when they pull up to this planet and they're like, hey, it's M-class, it's got a breathable atmosphere. T'Pol's the one who's like, hey, there's like a week's worth of surveying and tests we need to do before we send a crew down.
And then he's
there.
like, nope, let's just Leroy Jenkins our way down to that planet and see if anything bad happens.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. He totally just, let's just ignore protocol.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the one thing that makes me think like Kirk wouldn't have done that. Picard most certainly would not have done that.
Definitely would not have.
But I mean,
I get that they're trying to show the growing pains. That's what this series seems to be kind of about, the growing pains of creating the of Starfleet. But there's a good reason we have certain protocols.
Exactly.
And you see what happened
for this reason. And I think that would have been an interesting turn for Archer to realize T'Pol was right. Yeah. Had I listened, had we studied,
these are the consequences of your actions. Yeah. Like slow down, cowboy.
Yeah,
Speaking
exactly.
of cowboys, Tucker is the cowboy.
Oh yeah. Jeez Louise.
But the thing with him, and I kind of made this, I called him Dollar Store McCoy earlier, but I do feel like the crew of Enterprise is very much like, all right, we got to tick these boxes because this is a Star Trek crew. So this is your McCoy. You've got a first mate that's a Vulcan. You've got your one alien guy with the weird head.
Yep.
Yep. You got the black guy. You got the European guy. like it's like, and yes, they're not necessarily all in the same role as the Vulcan is, but there are some are not necessarily in the same roles.
Yeah.
But it's like they had a checklist of crew members they had to tick off, and they got the Vulcan and the lady in one character, so they had two birds with one stone there.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at some of the more hardcore Star Trek fans might know that way back when Star Trek used to take quote unquote fan submissions. Now there's a lot of caveats to that, but if you do a little bit of research, you'll come across, I found an article from Wired magazine where they sent someone to basically do a breakdown of Star Trek Voyager, but they ended up doing a little bit with the writers and talking about the formula for how to write for Star Trek. And it seems like they did tick the boxes of, we got to have this, and this, and this to really make it quote unquote Star Trek. And I think, unfortunately, they didn't take this opportunity to sort of break away from that. We're getting to see the genesis of a lot of things. We're going to get to see the genesis of the Red Alert and the Universal Translator, like we talked about last week. But at the end of the day, it's Patton Oswalt's argument against episode 1 of the Star Wars universe. I don't care to see him as a little kid. I just love this.
I don't want to see John Voight's suck.
Right. All that to say, like,
I guess you have to know that Patton Oswalt joke to know why I said that.
Go search for John Voight's sack. No,
Google it.
Google it. It's fun. No, but I think they had an opportunity to really break the mold, and I think they decided to play it safe, which I know goes against everything that we were just talking about, playing it safe versus taking risks. But in terms of an artistic endeavor with a well-established franchise like Star Trek, when you get those opportunities to create something new and expand that universe, take that opportunity. Don't just settle into stuff that's been done before just because that's what's been done before. Break tradition, go and do your own thing.
Because you've got an established brand, you can do that. And I have not watched it, but from what I understand, Discovery has kind of taken that initiative and done something a little more daring within the universe of Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I've had discussions with my wife and Gary, of course, about how structurally different how Discovery is and how Discovery has been, so open to plot points and bleeding over into story elements of this idea of acceptance and breaking molds and breaking away from things that breaking the conventions and, trying to set up something new. I mean, and it is, to use the pun here, but it is a journey of discovery, not just the name of the ship, but within ourselves and our interactions with other people. And discovery has been great. I'm really excited to see what they do next. So we don't have a lot of stats to crack off for this particular episode, other than it was written here once again by Berman and Braga and directed by David Livingston,
who's a Star Trek legend.
Yeah, Star Trek legend. He's got quite a few credits to his name, but just pulling
62 episodes.
Yeah, so he's well versed in the Star Trek universe. He's got an Emmy under his belt.
Yeah, Livingston started out as like a production manager on the very first episode of Next Generation.
Wow, that's great.
And then worked his way up to some other credits before finally directing. I think he only directed like 2 episodes of Next Generation, but lots of Deep Space Nine episodes, lots of Voyager episodes, lots of Enterprise episodes.
Yeah, he's a living, working, TV director. Looking at most of his stuff, it's a lot of Star Trek. He's also got some credits on some other TV projects. These are the folks that make the dreams. These are the folks that make the stuff that we love. So, if you're at all curious about some of these writers and directors, dive in and see where their work overlaps in other properties. That's kind of what we're going to do here. We mentioned Ronald D. Moore and his involvement with Battlestar Galactica. He was, instrumental in Next Gen and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And he, plays a role later down the line here in Enterprise. But it's fun to see these things come back around. I can't wait to dive into more as we go along with Enterprise. So Justin, I know we talked a little bit about it last week. For those who maybe just tuned in for this episode and didn't listen, just quickly break down Cinema Shock for folks.
Cinema Shock Podcast is a podcast where we talk about cult movies, genre movies. We talk about the history behind those movies. We go deep behind the scenes, heavily researched, but it's me, Gary, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, and Todd, who just asked me that question. we talk about cult movies, and we talk about, and when we say cult movies, like movies, cult and genre movies is what we like to say, because we've talked about 70s Swedish exploitation movies. Mm-hmm. We've also talked about The Dark Knight. So we're kind of all over the place. We talk about the stories behind those movies, their legacies, and all that stuff each week, and it's fun. They're long episodes, but they're fun and they're heavily researched, like I said. But it's kind of like a movie club. Like, you watch the movie, join us the next week, and we'll talk about it, and it's kind of a full experience.
I gotta say, I don't know that I've ever given you proper praise for the level of research that you do on the show. Gary does a great amount as well, but I know at one point you rescheduled a podcast recording because you were waiting on a book to come in the mail for a particular film that we were discussing. I was like, wow, that is dedicated, man. Like,
I just ordered a Toby Hooper book that should be here tomorrow. I just ordered, because we're doing Toby Hooper next. So I just ordered a book off Amazon all about Toby Hooper's career. So you can browse Wikipedia and find some of this information, but we like to get a little bit deeper than that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I know I'm dropping the this is for folks who don't know, like, I've been on Cinema Shock and the other iterations of that show for like 5 years now. Is that
something
right?
like that?
Yeah. But most of my research has been fairly surface level. So this show is actually my first production. So I'm just learning the ropes here, much like the crew of the Enterprise. So, please bear with me. I am going to get deeper into this. I also have a full-time job and a wife and a dog and a mortgage. So I'm going to do my best to figure out scheduling and deep dive on some more research things. I have found things, but I found that they actually relate to episodes down the line. So as we go along, we're going to get deeper into some of this.
It's tough on a episode by episode, because like I can find a book that will tell me all about the making of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That movie is classic and is going on 50 years old.
Right.
So, but to find a deep dive into the making of episode 3 of Star Trek Enterprise is
It's
not
a tall order.
not
It's a
something
tall
you're
order.
gonna find. Not unless you got Rick Berman's phone number. So,
Not yet. I'm sure. Hey, if you've got any cast or crew contact information that I can use to reach out to see if they'd like to come on for an interview, hit me up at Computer Resume on all the socials.
I'll just tweet at Will Wheaton daily.
Will Wheaton, if you happen to hear this, sir, please, you have an open invitation to come on anytime. We can talk about an episode. We can just gab for an hour. That'll be great. The fans will love it. Oh, so where can they find the show? Where can they find you on the socials?
Well, you can first and foremost, if you want to listen to the podcast, go on Spotify or Apple Podcast or Google Podcast or any of those podcast things. We're out there. We're on YouTube too. Most of the episodes they don't get uploaded immediately to YouTube like they do in the other places, but they all eventually end up on our YouTube channel too. Or cinemashock.net, which is where all of our episodes and links to all of the places where you can subscribe to us are, or at cinema_shock on Twitter and Instagram. And we're on Facebook, of course. And I am at Justin_Bishop on Twitter and Instagram and Letterboxd, which is where I'm probably most active.
Great. And I am
'Cause I
at
watch
Mr.
a
Todd
lot
A.
of
Davis. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm on there too. I've really fallen down in keeping that thing updated, but I'm
working my way through all of the James Bond movies right now.
I saw that are you still going, or where are you?
Yeah,
where are you in that
watched,
franchise?
I'm on Brosnan.
Nice.
I watched Tomorrow Never Dies yesterday, and that movie slaps. I know Goldeneye gets all the praise. Tomorrow Never Dies, it rules pretty hard.
Isn't that
Michelle Yeoh
with Star Trek alum Michelle Yeoh, of course. Yeah,
she's a badass in it too. She's awesome.
Pretty cool. To be honest, like.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
I really dug both versions of Georgiou. Kind of wish we'd gotten to spend a little more time with her as the captain of the Shinzo. You know, seeing the mirror universe Georgiou was fun, but I'm not spoiling anything for you, am I?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. So. All right. Well, I'll stop there. I'll stand down from spoiler alert. I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all the socials. From all of us at Computer Resume Podcast, thank you so much for listening. Justin, thank you so much for coming on twice in a row. And you going to continue watching Enterprise?
Maybe. I mean...
Again, I appreciate the honesty, sir.
I will watch episodes. Will I watch every episode? I don't know. I mean, I if you invite me back, I'll watch any relevant episodes.
There's enough best of lists out there.
Yeah. I found one on Wired. I think it was on Wired today. That was like a binge watching guide. Like these are the must see episodes of Enterprise, and so maybe I'll watch those plus any others that you ask me to come on.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I hear season 4 of Enterprise is really good.
Yeah, I think they embrace sort of the more serialized aspect of storytelling, so they end up grouping a lot. There's a lot of 2-parters and 3-parters.
Unfortunately, there are 65 episodes to get through until then.
Right. We've got a ways to go. Anyways, for all of us, thank you so much, and I'll see you in 10 forward.
Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was done by Will Martin at heyitswill.seo on Instagram. And I'm Kat Davis at that.darn.cat with a K on Instagram. The Computer Resume podcast is part of the Slice of Fried Gold Network. #LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Crewman Cutler and Novakovic. I'm gonna really try to stick that landing on that name throughout this episode. Jeez, here we go. Crewman Cutler. That Novakovic. And take 2. Crewman Cutler and Novakovic. Yay.
Cool.